Good day, everyone. My name is Drunken Leprechaun. I am a warbird instructor from Take Flight, and today I will be running through the basics of operating the Mosquito. I am not an expert on this airframe. I will be skipping over some items or other information during the video. For more detailed information, please consider joining our Discord and participating in one of our classes. I'll be doing my best to run through everything within the next hour or so, everything from start to finish with code start, takeoff, taxiing, landing, some basic navigation, air to air, air to ground. I'll touch upon all the major items very briefly, as quickly as possible. I am using a large resolution monitor and recording on a lower resolution. I'll be doing my best to explain everything verbally, what I am doing throughout the video. So do not be alarmed if I open up the options menu and you cannot read the text. I will read out loud to you what I am doing and or performing as much as I can verbally. I am using a TrackIR Pro system, so if you see on the screen any random movements like this per se, I'm not looking at anything in particular. I'm just moving my head around. So without further ado, let's get started. Let's start with cold starts. So with all airframes, you're going to want to use a knee board. Knee boards are available on the DCS user files website. Within the Discord, I have one linked to a preferred knee board of my choosing that I like to use. After you install the knee board within the game, you're going to have to hit the right shift K keybind to open up the knee board. You may have to use the left or right brackets on the keyboard to navigate to get to your installed knee board. So with this checklist in particular, with this knee board, I'm going to be skipping through a lot of things. A lot of these things are pre-flight checks. There is a master setting in the options menu. Within the options menu, there is a setting that randomizes system failures. As long as you do not have that setting enabled, you should have a perfectly fine airframe upon every startup, and you should be able to skip all the pre-flight checks. As long as you know which ones are the pre-flight items that you can skip. And or unless the multiplayer server you are operating on has done something specifically to the airframe. Otherwise, you can always skip the pre-flight checks. So the first step here that I'm going to perform in regards to my checklist is the park and brake on. This is usually always the first step. It's just about all airframes is initiate the park and brake so we don't accidentally roll forward. So to do that, it's a two-step process within the Mosquito. I'm going to actually bring up my adjust controls at this part. I know you cannot probably see the text, so I'm just going to read off what I'm doing. I'm going to hit the keybind on my HOTAS, which is by default the W key for wheel brakes on the keyboard. We're going to hold down the wheel brake keybind. When we do that, we're also going to press and hold the wheel brake lock keybind, which is by default left Alt T. So you're going to hold down the wheel brake and then hit and hold the wheel brake lock, release the wheel brakes, and then release the wheel brake lock, and that should engage the brake system. So we're going to perform that procedure right now. The wheel brake is located just sort of off right behind the stick to the left. Holding down the wheel brake is that vertical handle that's moving right now. Holding it down, and then the wheel brake lock is the spring mechanism. It's moving right now, as you can see. I'm going to press and hold it, release the wheel brake. It's fully erect. You heard some hydraulic pressure. Release that pin, and it should stay as such. And that wheel brake is now engaged. Next step up on my checklist, I'm going to turn on the electrical services switch. That is located off to the top right over here. We have our center blind flying instrument panel. Then off to the right of it, to the top right, we have this little lock-in mechanism, little control lever. This can move up and down. If you right-click it into the upward position, it reveals the magneto switches to be able to turn on. that is the electrical service switch. This turns on the electrical services. So our electrical services are now turned on. Next step up on my checklist I'm skipping a few things as mentioned, pre-flight checks. I'm going to swap our main fuel cocks to the outer tanks. To do that, we can hit the number 2 key on our keyboard to swap seats to the navigator seat. Once we do that, we're going to look to our left. Behind the pilot seat here, we have some fuel management systems. The fuel cocks are right here to the bottom. Let me zoom in for you. Main fuel cocks are right here. You're just gonna left click them a few times and right click this other one to put each port side and starport side into the outer tanks. Unless there is also keybinds for that. Okay, now that's done. Next up is the on my checklist here is throttles to 1/2 inch open. Gonna go back to the pilot seat by hitting the 1 key on the keyboard. We're now back in the pilot seat. We're gonna put our throttles just a 1/2 inch forward to let the engine properly catch when we get to the startup procedure. Do not put the throttles any more forward than else you will risk moving the aircraft past its park and brake limit, and or if you didn't even have the park and brake installed, if you started it up drastically like that, as such you may possibly tip the airframe forward by accident. So we're just going to leave it 1/2 inch forward, our throttles. Next step up is the RPM control levers. We're going to set them to maximum forward. Those are also located on our left hand side. That's these 2 white knobs. I'm going to move them right now so you can see them. These are it's a propeller controller. We're going to put both to the fullest extent. Just FYI, I am using a new throttle quadrant system. Just bear with me. I'm using a CH product quadrant throttle. It's my sort of relatively first time using it. But you can operate the Mosquito just fine with using a single. You don't need split throttles or split propellers systems with the Mosquito. You can operate it just fine with like a split throttle system with just 2 axis controls. Next step up, I'm going to skip down here in my checklist to the pressure venting cock to ensure we have enough pressure for a fuel injection system. That's also behind the pilot seat. I'm going to swap back to the navigator seat by using the 2 key. Looking behind the pilot seat, it's this big top knob here, fuel tank pressure. Just going to right click that to the on position. On is up, off is down. That is engaged now. And then we're going to skip the rest. Next up, we're going to request ground crew startup, priming the engines. To do that, we need to go back to the pilot seat, hitting the 1 key. I already have my window open. By default, this window is closed. You must have this open in order to talk to the ground crew. To start the priming the engines, we're going to hit our comms menu. Go to ground crew. And it's the last option, start priming engines. As soon as I click that, you're going to hear the ground crew say copy. As soon as right after you hear the ground crew say copy, you may start the engine startup procedure.
On the starter. Copy.
Okay, so now we're good to execute our startup procedures. So we're going to go down here to our checklist, both magnetos on. So we start off with either the port or starboard side. I'm just going to go from left to right. To our magneto switches. Again, here's in the center, blind flying instrument panel, right off to the right, where that electrical service switch that we did. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have magnetos 1 and 2, and magnetos 1 and 2 for the right hand side and for the starboard side. We're going to start off the left hand side. We just simply right click these both up in the on position. And then in the Mosquito, we have some starter and booster coils. We're going to right click the covers open on our port side. So what's going to happen next is this is going to be a 2-step process. We're going to left click and hold the starter, you will see the propeller start to spin. Let it spin for a second and a half or 2 seconds. Let it rotate, get enough rotation. As soon as it rotates for about 2 seconds, you go into right click and hold the booster coil. You hear the engine starting to turn, and as soon as you hear it to start the fire, it's trying to start to catch, you may release the left and the right mouse click, release the starter and booster coils, and it should start up just fine. Just monitor your throttles, your RPM, make sure it's not too far, you're not going to uh, it's not too much throttle per se. Just make sure you're at a ½ inch on the throttle. So we're going to execute that procedure again. So now I'm going to hover my mouse over the starter button. I'm going to left click and hold. Propeller is spinning. Alright, it's spinning pretty good. I'm going to right click and hold the booster. I heard it fired. Release. And it's starting up. RPMs are well below 1,000. That's good. We can have the RPMs go to, I would say, 1,100, 1,200 for warming up. I'm just going to leave it low so you can hear me. Make sure you can hear me. Alright, now we can, the booster coil automatically closes itself, which is nice. You're just going to have to secure the other one with a left click on the cover. Now we do the other side. Right click magnetos 1 and 2 for the starboard side. Right click the starter, booster coil cover, open. Going to left click and hold the starter. Give it a second. Alright, it's rotating. Right click and hold the booster. I heard it fired. Release. And we have a successful startup on engine number 2. Perfect. Great. We pretty much cold started our aircraft just now. That's a successful cold start. So let's go over a few other things. In regards to warming up the aircraft, as I mentioned, warming up already, which is touch upon warming up the aircraft. As mentioned, there is a master setting with random system failures enabled. As long as you don't have that enabled, just about all the settings, like oil pressure, should be anywhere from 90 to 120, 90 pounds. It should read normally. That should be fine. Oil temperature will eventually get up to its assigned temperature reading by itself, relatively normally fine, without you having to do any extra steps. What you're going to have to wait for all the time, mainly with all warbirds, is the coolant radiator temperature. This should be at 60 degrees before takeoff. If you try to take off with the temperature below 60, you may experience some issues during flight. So this is going to have to be, you're just going to have to watch these, make sure to get up to proper temperature. This is mainly what you're waiting on during cold starts, is always the coolant, the radiator coolant. If you're getting impatient on the radiator coolant, you may increase, using throttle, the RPMs to about, new throttle. I want to say about 1,300 in the Mosquito, just fine, and have it sit there and run. And it should be relatively fine to have it sit there and run. But I have some other things to explain to you, so I'm just gonna have it sit there at 1,000. I'll bring it back a little bit more so you can hear me. And I apologize again, this new throttle I'm using has a weird indent into it where it jumps a little bit, but it should be fine. Next thing that we can do within our airframe in regards to startup procedures, looking off to our right hand side, we have a row of switches right here on the top. One of these switches is the P dot heat. We can left click that into the downward position onto on to ensure our instruments do not freeze up during flight. Great. Next up, we can talk about some navigation settings within the Mosquito. We can talk about right now the compass, ensuring our compass is all lined up to the magnetic heading. So right here on our blind flying instrument panel, we have a gyro compass. What we want to do is ensure our gyro compass is synced up to the current magnetic heading, as it most cases usually is not. It's just based off true heading. It's not based off the magnetic heading. To do that, within the Mosquito, it's in a weird spot. We have a P8 compass, which is a magnetic compass. To sync up our gyro to the magnetic heading, our current magnetic heading, we first need to adjust this PA compass using the mouse wheel. We can rotate this glass top part left or right, clockwise and counterclockwise. And right below the top part, there's a bottom part here. You can see a yellow line here, a yellow indicator here, another yellow indicator on the other side, and then the other yellow indicator has a perpendicular line to it. You have a cross right here essentially. This cross is going to be your reference point to syncing up your magnetic north. So what you're going to do or need to do is rotate the top part compass so that the north is in line with that cross, the bottom part of the cross, and that will give you your magnetic heading. By looking at this top part of the glass, there's a yellow dash, a short yellow dash here. That remains stationary. As you can see, it's remaining stationary as I'm moving the PA compass left and right. That will give you your current heading, your current magnetic heading, as soon as you line up this north part with this cross. And this is in a very weird spot. I do not have a key bind, so I'm just gonna eyeball it for the most part right here as much as possible. I'm essentially just gonna line up, make sure it's sort of flat and even like so. And I'm gonna say I'm heading, I have a magnetic heading of 289. Actually, apologies, I can just, this should be perfectly even. I'm gonna line up the west point here a little bit. Okay, pretty happy with that. 291, yeah, 291-ish is my current magnetic heading, I'm gonna say. So after I've done that, come back here, up here to my gyro. Just rotate this to that's 290 right there, just a little bit, just a tad bit. Doesn't have to be measure accurately. Doesn't have to be measure accurately. That's about 291 for me. I'm happy with that. Additionally, we also have a repeater compass of the P8 compass. To turn on our repeater compass right here on the top left instrument panel, right to the left of our blind flying instrument panel, we have two switches we need to engage. The two switches we need to engage are on our left hand side here. It says compass and apologize, I don't recall what that means off the top of my head right now. But we need to flip both these switches on right after another. So I'm just gonna left click to the bottom on position. And that should give us our current heading, current magnetic heading. It's saying it's a bit more drastically actually for me right now. 25, 260, 270. Interesting. I'm gonna leave it as such. I can confirm in the F10 map really quick. Now I'm gonna go with the 291. Yeah, I'm going to go with the 291. Okay. So that covers the magnetic headings. Now let's talk about the altimeter settings. There's two ways how we can set our altimeter at start. We can simply zero it out to the current airfield we're on by rotating this knob right below it, left and right, as such. Or we can use the current pressure readings, the mercury settings, and things of that nature within the briefing page. I'm going to do that right now by hitting the escape key, going to briefings. And again, if you can't see the text, do not worry. All the temperature readings and things of that jazz are always located, usually at the very bottom of the briefing. At the very end, there's usually a weather section and or a chart. The Mosquito uses the HPA setting. Right now it's saying it's 1013. So I'm going to rotate this until this bottom indicator right here is at 1013. And these are by 2, so I'm happy with that. Alright, that's that's now set based on current pressure. Alright, so that covers our internal, the basics about navigation settings in regards to the Mosquito. Next up, we can talk about basic how to navigate within the F10 map. I'm going to open up the F10 map and cover some basics about navigating with the warbirds. There are 2 ways to navigate. We have Dead Reckoning, which is simply flying from point A to point B. So simply saying I'm going to fly from Tbilisi straight to the ground targets on a heading of 295, just Dead Reckoning, one point to another point. Then we have Pilotage, which is essentially a combination of Dead Reckoning and using visual reference points, such as landmarks, fixed points, and landfalls. Let's talk about those 3 things really quick. In regards to landmarks and fixed points, they're kind of the same thing or can be used as the same interchangeably sometimes. You can say Kutasi here is sort of a landmark. It's quite identifiable within an area of space, considering everything else around it in regards to its shape and stuff like that. That would be like a landmark, or it can be used as a fixed point, just a simple a point in space that you use as a reference point to further do more calculations further on with your plotting, your course plotting. Landfalls, how the name sort of originally derived. Quite simply put, coming in over the sea, just heading east until you hit this landmass. You've met landfall, and then following its natural route or path to another point. This is not the only way how to use landfall. Any sort of like divider per se can be used as a landfall, like this mountain range can be used as a landfall reference, and or say the stream right here, stream or river, can be used as a landfall reference. To use a landfall reference, say for instance, we want to get to Kotasi, and we are coming in over the water per se from here. To get to Kotasi, if I didn't have any other knowledge besides that I know Kotasi will be to my far south, I am coming to the far north from Kotasi. Based on that knowledge, and based on the knowledge that I'm coming from the sea and I will eventually hit land, I will simply plot a course to head east until I hit my landfall reference marker of just simply put the land. And once I hit my landfall marker here, I would simply say I'm going to follow the landfall of its natural path, its route, heading south into another fixed point or landmarker of my reference of my choosing, which I would choose this point right here. It's quite identifiable to two stream openings with a landmass in between it. Nothing else is like that during my course heading south per se, as you can see. So that's a good reference. I would just hit the land, which would be my landfall, follow its path to the south, hit my next landmark reference, fixed point reference, and then turn in and follow the path of the stream or river using the runway right here as a fixed point reference, knowing that I'm going on the right path and knowing that Katasi is the second runway in question, which is my target. So once I know that I passed the first runway, my target will be the second runway. As soon as I see it, the fixed point, my landmarker, I know I've reached my objective and I can turn inward and whatnot. So that covers the basics of navigating with warbirds. I'm gonna hit the F1 button key and head back into the cockpit. We will be heading to this ground targets just for reference. Okay, so that covers the navigation parts of the warbirds with the mosquitoes and such. Next thing I want to talk about or touch on is we can go over some taxiing, how to taxi within the Mosquito. For taxiing, we have a 2-engine system here. Our rudder is directly behind us, so it's not in the slipstream of either engine. We will need to use brake pressure while taxiing with rudder input to execute turns within the Mosquito, and or you can control it with split throttles of how you're staying on the taxiway. While taxiing in the Mosquito, it's a best practice to keep the stick in the aft position to avoid any incidents of where you may accidentally throw the throttles too quickly or too much forward to engage, to make sure the airframe remains safely in a 3-point position without tipping forward and damaging the propellers. For safety reasons, just keep the stick in the aft position and you should be fine. While we're here on the ground, let's go over some trim settings. This would normally be done on the runway, but we'll cover it right here, right now. For trim settings in the Mosquito, the default parameter for rudder trim, our rudder is located right here to the top right. You can see it moving right now. We want to put it right, we want to apply right trim, right rudder trim, until this indicator gets to the T of trim, and that is a good default setting in regards to the proper amount of right rudder trim you want to have applied to the Mosquito. Similar to the other RAF airframe, the Spitfire, the Mosquito will want to roll to the left. You can see that we have 2 engines. In regards to the manufacturing, the RAF manufacturing during the war, in regards to pumping out as much as it can, both engines rotate in the same direction. They did not take the time or energy, or want to waste the time and energy per se, to implement differential rotating. One rotating counterclockwise, the other one rotating clockwise. They simply are rotating in the same direction, causing the Mosquito wanting to go and roll to the left constantly. So we're going to apply right rudder trim. I also prefer, this is not a set parameter or a default parameter. This is based on personal preference and how I like to fly it, and found it easier for takeoff. I like to apply aileron trim to the right as well. The aileron trim is located at the very bottom in the center of your front console here. It's this knob that's rotating in front of you right now on my screen. I like to apply quite a lot of right aileron trim, just about that, so like the first indicator at least, and that helps me during takeoff, as the airframe typically wants to, as mentioned, wants to roll to the left. I find that helps out a lot in making my life easier during takeoff. Next up, we're going to apply nose trim down. With the warbirds, usually you always apply more nose trim down with more weights. I will show you my configuration settings in just a second. I am currently configured with two 500-pound bombs in my center fuselage with my bomb bay doors, and then I have 4 rockets on each side for a total of 8 rockets. Excuse me. So I'm going to apply, by default, the nose trim down should be about 1.5 if with no armaments, with a minimum load. I have a decent load, so I'm going to go at least 2. I might go 2.5. I'll probably do like just slightly past the 2. Yeah, I'm going to leave it like there for my current settings. And I'll discuss more about the reason why during takeoff, why we apply more nose trim down with the more weight increase. Alright, so we can taxi with the window closed or open. I'm going to currently taxi with it closed so you can hear me. Make sure you can hear me. Alright, to start our taxiing, we are going to put our stick in the aft position for safety. We're going to hold down the wheel brakes, apply some throttle. Yeah, I'm going to the left. I'm just going to start putting some left rudder. No brake pressure just yet. I'm going to let the aircraft get some speed before I apply brake pressure so we can actually turn. Else I'm just going to come to a complete stop. I release the brakes. I'm going to apply some differential throttle. Applying brake pressure. Alright, I'm actually going to also hit right control enter so you can see my inputs to the bottom left. See, I'm just using some rudder and some brake pressure. And for the most part, I do have split throttle control, so I'm just going to, for the most part, maintain the center of the runway using split throttles here. Again, I am using a new throttle quadrant, so just bear with me. So while we are lining up on the runway, we want to try to get as much center as possible. After we are comfortable with being centered on the runway, we want to be centered as possible in regards to takeoff, because we're going to be dancing on the rudder pedals sometimes in the Mosquito, and we want to give ourselves enough wiggle room. After we line up centered, we want the airframe to roll forward a bit to straighten out our tail wheel. I'm going to show you right now what happens to the tail wheel when I use brakes and turn. See how the tail wheel starts to no longer be straight and centered? That will make our lives that much more difficult if it's not straightened out in regards to takeoff, about how much rudder we need to apply in a certain direction. So just make sure you just let the airframe roll forward a bit to straighten out that tail wheel so you remain centered and straight during takeoff as much as possible. And there's no rush, just take your time while taxiing, especially on first start using the Mosquito. Alright, now I'm just gonna center it up as much as I can to my liking. Alright, just gonna let the airframe roll forward a bit, using some rudder input to make sure I'm straightened out. Oh, I'm using some brakes. Let it roll forward just a tad more. All right, I'm going to apply wheel brakes. I'm going to engage my wheel brake system, holding down the wheel brake keybind, locking it, releasing. All right, now I'm locked and engaged. So let's go over some other settings for takeoff. I'm going to move my knee board here to my RPM settings page. Before we discuss power settings, we're going to go over some other settings for takeoff, such as flaps. By default, we want to do flaps to 15 degrees for takeoff. Our flap control lever is located underneath our blind flying instrument panel to the right in the center of this console. Um, with these, except for the bomb bay doors, there's a locking mechanism for the gears and for the flaps. You're just going to simply, you can right click the lever, open if you don't have it keybind. It's just the keybind is just the flap lever lock, flaps control lever latch. So you're just going to unlatch it, and we're going to drop our flaps to 15 degrees. Our flap indicator is located behind our stick, underneath the blind flying instrument panel in the center. It says flap here. You're going to drop it until it's just past the 10, and then bring it back to neutral, the flap control system. And it can go as fast or as slow, depending on how much hydraulic pressure has been built up in the system. When we take off with the gear, we're going to hold the wheel brakes down when we lift up our wheel brakes to stop the wheels from spinning as they become retracted into their holding within the wing. Not necessarily majorly important. I haven't seen any issues in DCS when I've forgotten to hold down the wheel brakes, but by default settings you want to hold down the wheel brakes to stop the wheels from spinning to safely retract the wheels. Next up, in regards to settings, off to our top right here we have some radiator control flaps. We want to open up the radiator flaps to ensure enough cool air is heading to the engines to make sure we don't overheat during takeoff, as we'll be in a high power engine setting with regards to RPM and boost. So just put those on. And I also forgot to mention in regards to the air filter, we can leave this off for now. In regards to our current environment, we're in a good environment as such. What I mean to say that is we're either on concrete or tarmac asphalt. The air filter to be turned on is only meant or intended for poor conditions such as dirt or grass, to filter out any unnecessary or unwanted particles entering the air intake, engine intake, and things of that nature. But we can leave that off for our current environment. So next up, in regards to takeoff settings, off to our right here in our knee board, we see a max takeoff setting of full RPM at 3000, which we are currently fully at full RPM. And we have a max boost of plus 18. So let's talk about the boost. Boost is located on our left instrument panel here. We see a left and right for each engine. The boost is simply indicating how much throttle input you have, how much boost you're applying into the fuel injection system, how much fuel you're trying to shoot into the injection system based on pounds per square inch. So this pounds per square inch is also based on the current air pressure. Simply put, this will decrease by itself without any throttle input as you increase in altitude as the air pressure decreases, or increase by itself without any throttle input as you descend in altitude as the air pressure intensifies. So just you're just going to have to monitor your boost if you're ascending or descending to ensure you're maintaining the profile that you currently want, whether it's climbing, max rich continuous, and so what. Okay. For takeoff, it's all based on weight. We're gonna, based on our current weight, we're gonna see probably a rotation lift off around just after 100 miles per hour. A saved rotation just after 100 miles per hour. In regards to takeoff itself, we do not in the Warbirds pull try to flare the aircraft up. It will stall out the aircraft, and in the Mosquito and Spitfire it will roll to the left and will crash upon stalling. We do not flare or apply drastic or a crazy amount of aft on the stick. We simply apply some light aft And, we can just as so, just some slight aft to give it some assistance or help to lift off. Essentially, with the warbirds, you want the airframe to take off by itself, vertically straight up in the air by itself, purely on airlift generation. As you can see, we're sort of already in a flare mode per se. The wings are tilted up. That's for the safety of the propellers. Big engines, right? Propeller engines. They're already in like an aft position. The airframe will tip forward after it generates enough speed. We will come to a 2-point configuration on the tarmac before taking off. But you just want to give it slight aft and let the airframe take off by itself. Essentially, if you're familiar with Navy jets, with recovery operations, performing like belly landing type of style landings, you sort of want to think of it as reverse. You want to take off vertically with the aircraft, taking off by itself from just pure airlift generation. But you will need to assist it. And just be mindful, as mentioned, the aircraft wants to roll left. You are most likely, even though with our aileron trim to the right, you're probably going to have to pull to the right a little bit. But do not force it up; it will stall. Just let it get up, gain altitude very gently. Play it safe. Again, due to our weights, just after 100 miles per hour, you're going to notice it. Hopefully, you can start applying some aft pressure, just a little bit, and get it some help up in the air. We're going to have the flaps remain engaged until 160 miles per hour, 165 miles per hour. Once we reach that safe speed, we can retract our flaps. As soon as we're airborne, though, right off the tarmac, go ahead and retract the gear. It's a 2-step process. You're going to have to release the latch and then pull the gear up. In regards to applying throttle during takeoff, we want to apply the throttle very gently. We do not want to simply throw the throttle fully forward to the max plus 18 pounds per square inch. We want to gradually get to plus 18. Based on your current weight and whatnot, you may not have to get to plus 18 in order to get the airframe off the ground. But that is our current recommendation for a limitation for settings without damaging the airframe per se in regards to overheating it for an extended period of time. Plus 18 full RPM. So for takeoff, we're going to keep the stick aft at the beginning. We may use wheel brakes to help us stay on the runway at low speeds below 50 miles per hour. In regards to the air and the speed indicator, it's here located in our blind flying instrument panel to our top left. You can see it's in miles per hour. You can see that it only goes down to 60. So when I say like 15 miles per hour, 20 miles per hour, you're going to have to eyeball it in regards to safety, how safe you are to apply wheel brake pressure. Once you get to about 40 miles per hour, you can just say 60 miles per hour in this instance. You can let the stick come center to the forward position here, to the center, just below 60 per se. You can let the stick come center. And you are most likely going to need to dance on the wheel brakes. Dance on the rudders during takeoff. So again, we're going to want to very gradually increase the throttle. Since the aircraft rolls left, you can practice with the split throttles of leading with the left throttle as such before you apply right throttle pressure to keep the airframe straight. And you can essentially, once you get comfortable, just use the throttles to keep the airframe straight, applying more left or right power. But that is not needed. You can simple rudder control will suffice. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started here. So what we're going to do, we're holding down the wheel brakes, stick is aft. What I'm actually going to do is apply some boost with the wheels engaged, so I can give the engine a nice starting roll. I'm gonna just give it to about -2, -4 for a second, and then release. We're rolling. I'm going to the right already, so I'm just gonna actually give it some wheel brakes. All right. Applying some more throttle. Letting the stick come to the center gradually. I applied just very slight aft on the stick. And I apologize, I am using a new quadrant that did not go quite ideally as planned. And wheel brakes wheels are coming up. And the flaps are coming up. I'm going to start retrimming for level flight. And now I'm going to bring my power settings to a climbing profile of 2850 RPM. And a boost of +9. There you have it. You have a successful takeoff. Again, I apologize. It was a little bit crazy on the runway there during takeoff. I am using a new quadrant throttle that I'm just playing with. But I'm going to pause the video right now. There's going to be a stitch in the video that I'm going to send because I do have to take a quick bathroom break. So, excuse me. I'll be right back.